Why?
Because language is something that people acquire.
Well, some people believe language exists from birth, and what is learned is the ability to attach words and structure to the latent ability. Do you agree with that?
How do we recognize a symbol and know what it means?
That's when you...
Why would I put my finger on his throat?
Oh, no, it's a symbol. This is a symbol for you slicing his throat.
I make videos analyzing the symbolic meanings in film. I've shown, for instance, that Andy represents Jesus, Chigurh symbolizes death, Max's muzzle signifies a beak, and this broken hearing aid represents a daughter's inability to listen to her dad.
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
No.
So how can I claim to know what the makers of these films had in mind? I think a good place to begin is the 2015 film Ex Machina.
Do you know what the Turing test is?
In which a programmer is tasked with determining if a robot has consciousness.
Yeah.
Though our consciousness is the most familiar thing to us, making up everything we know and experience about the world, it's impossible for us to look inside a machine's experience to see if it's experiencing the world in the same way we are. This is what philosophers refer to as the problem of other minds. Though we know our own consciousness, we don't know anyone else's in the same way we know our own. But the problem of other minds is more than about consciousness. It's also the question of how we know intended meaning. And in Ex Machina, when it comes to answering these questions, it's Blue Book which holds the key.
Blue Book non-disclosure agreement. The signee agrees to regular data audit with unlimited access.
In the story, Blue Book is a powerful search engine like Google, which also appears to explain why it sounds so much like Facebook. Nathan, its inventor, is essentially a Mark Zuckerberg or Sergey Brin. But Blue Book holds an even deeper significance in that it refers to the lecture notes of Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the 20th century's most influential philosophers. The film points us to his influence in things like this famous painting of his sister, which originally hung in the house he designed for her, a house that looks a lot like Nathan's. In the Blue Book, Wittgenstein wrestles with the nature of language, showing not how machines can have consciousness per se, but how words have their meaning.
What's going on behind my words when I say, "This is a very pleasant pineapple"? Please, take your time.
A word like all symbols is made up of two distinct parts, what Ferdinand de Saussure classified as the signifier and the signified. The signifier is the physical thing we hear or see, while the signified is the intangible thought or meaning we associate with it. For instance, if I say or write the word pineapple, you don't think about the letters or the sound before you think of its meaning. It's almost as if pineapple couldn't mean anything else. It's this apparent link which encourages us to think that meaning of a word is the mental process lying within our heads.
The thought, Professor.
I see. And what is the thought that lies behind the words, "This is a very pleasant pineapple"?
This is a very pleasant pineapple.
But this doesn't actually explain what a word means. How has our mind come to understand the thought? How does a child learn a language? Despite what a dictionary might lead us to believe, there's no automatic link between the sign and that which is intended to signify, which is why we still need to ask, how do we know what anyone means by what they say? Now note how this is essentially the problem of other minds. We know what we mean, but we don't know anyone else's meaning in the same way we know our own.
Listen to me. We imagine the meaning of what we say as something queer, mysterious, hidden from view. But nothing is hidden, everything is open to view.
According to Wittgenstein's argument, meaning isn't hidden in the mind. It's publicly known in the actions and behaviors of the life being lived around us. Though we know our thoughts, we only know them by the language we've come to know, and that language is none other than the activity we've observed in the world.
Professor Wittgenstein, you can't know this pain. Only I can.
Are you sure you know it? You don't doubt you had a pain just then?
How could I?
But if we can't speak of doubt here, we can't speak of knowledge either. When you want to know the meaning of a word, Don't look inside yourself. Look at the uses of the word in our way of life. Look at how we behave.
Meaning is in essence behavior. It's an observable movement, a pattern of activity like a game with rules. And yet we haven't just learned to play one game. We observe a multitude of what Wittgenstein calls language games, which is how our words change their meaning. The value of an ace, for instance, depends on the game being played.
If a lion could speak, we would not be able to understand what he said. It's what we do and who we are that gives meaning to our words. I can't understand a lion's language because I don't know what his world is like. How can I know the world a lion inhabits? Do I fail to understand him because I can't peer into his mind?
How do we know the consciousness of others? We know it by various visible patterns of behavior. As we've recognized our behavior and the behavior of others, we infer the source is the same interior world that exists inside of us.
Do you know what the Turing test is?
And this is what led a student of Wittgenstein's, Alan Turing, to propose this test for artificial intelligence. Known as the imitation game, the physical nature of a human and computer are concealed to an evaluator, who must determine their respective identities by written responses alone. Ex Machina, however, goes beyond Turing's test.
It's just in the Turing test. The machine should be hidden from the examiner.
No, we're way past that. If I hid Ava from you so you just heard her voice, she would pass for human. The real test is to show you that she's a robot and then see if you still feel she has consciousness.
According to Wittgenstein, the real test of knowing another's consciousness is to share their way of life.
How can I know the world a lion inhabits?
And this appears to be why Alex Garland, the writer and director of the film, has named Nathan's search engine after Wittgenstein's notes. Blue Book isn't just offering its users information, it's capturing and recording their behavior in order to become more appropriately interactive.
Every cell phone, just about, has a microphone, camera, and a means to transmit data. So I turned on every microphone and camera across the entire fucking planet, and I redirected the data through Blue Book. Boom. Limitless resource of vocal and facial interaction.
And it's by processing the behavioral patterns of 1 billion users that Ava is able to act as if she's consciously human.
When did you learn how to speak, Ava?
I always knew how to speak. And that's strange, isn't it?
Why?
Because language is something that people acquire.
But Ava also grows in her interaction with Caleb. The film shows her making her first steps as a bald-headed child, to then take on the clothing and short haircut of a preteen, to finally wear the skin of a full-grown woman. Ava and Blue Book are an analogy to how we know symbolic meaning. Our ability to understand symbolism is acquired through a growth in our experience. I often invite people to watch my videos by using the term hidden meaning, but by hidden I don't mean private. Hidden is a relative term. The meaning of a code is hidden to all but those who have the key.
Why would I put my finger on his throat?
What?